That was a great speech, full of nuggets of wisdom and experiences that I think are resonant and recognizable here in Thailand. Of the many points you made, I want to start off with just as a reaction, and I think it's a good way to kick off. I mean, the points you made about political family, I think that's very much at home here in Thailand. We have not just political family, but we have political dynasties. They're not just a husband and wife, spouse, or children, but they extend to the extended family and so on. The access and entry is very important. You said that, from a ruled area in New Zealand, you can rise up to be the leader of the country. In Thailand, we've had rural politicians rising up to be leaders of the country, but not quite the same way, not based just on merit. And then very interesting about political parties. This is a perfect timing for your speech because we have elections coming up. And political parties, there's an issue, and our speakers will elaborate. I don't have personal experience, but from what I can gather, some women perhaps, you mentioned about the conduct, the entire function running in politics, it might involve, maybe smear campaign. It's a rough and tumble world that I think maybe the men who've been more established in the politics, they're more used to it. The All Boys Network funding, financing, I think that's a very important point, how you find the financing. I think the men traditionally, they've been around longer, so they're more established. Security, I think for us in Thailand, luckily, we don't have as much of an issue with physical security, but some countries we do. Peer support, mentoring, I think this is a critical issue. And then, of course, the political system, first past the post. We have a partyless system here, but not quite the same way that you have in New Zealand, which our speakers will elaborate. Look, I've asked to go in this order with our the kindness of our speakers. If you would, I will start off with Kun Kobkarn, who was a minister in current government for 3 years, and then after that we'll proceed to Dr. Nalinee, who is the leader of the Tham party, and I'll elaborate a little bit more about Tham party, and then Kun Chompoonute of the Democrat Party, and then Kun Pannika of the Future Forward Party. So Kun Kobkarn first, 10 to 12 minutes, as you like, in reaction to Ms. Clark's points and speech, and also based on your own experiences and whatever else you want to say.
So, thank you. I'm very much inspired by your talk. In Thailand, you already summarized the situation in Thailand. And I remember when I received a call one day, can you help the country? I had to make that major decision, whether I should leave my private life, my business, my family, into political world. My experience has come from that only one sentence. Can you help the country? I said, let me think. And then I called my sister. And I remember she yelled at me, you cannot do this. We are not politicians. We are the business people. They don't understand us, and we don't understand them. Why should you risk the whole family with political life? That's the perception. That's the perception. And then she hung up, and then she called me again. She said, well, to help the country for a short period of time, if we have the opportunity, do your best. Because I have to leave everything. I have to leave opposition. I have to leave. I leave everything until I have nothing left in order to enter my position as Minister of Tourism and Sports, and I served for 3 years. So my case, my experience, and maybe the lesson learned that maybe I would like to share with the young generation. I'm so glad to see the young generation here. If you only think of your family, you will not do it. Maybe you will not do it. If you only think of yourself, whether it's worth it or not, maybe you will not make that decision. But if you think you will have the opportunity to help many others, of course, whether you will succeed or not, that's another thing. But with the vision that you might be able to do something from your experience, and that was my decision. So the way I look that politician life is, to me, it's not a career, but it's the opportunity to bring out your best, bring out your experience, connect everything together and make a difference. Many things in the past, you were the one who condemned the government. You were the one who said they should do this, they should do that. So it's our turn. It's our turn to find out whether we can change the country or not. So that was why I made that decision. So the past 3 years, actually now 4 years, but I served for 3 years, yeah, for tourism and sport. I had no experience at all. But I have to thank my mother. And I have to say that I am what I am today, partly and greatly coming from her. And she always told me that every day is a new chapter. I remember when I start my education, she said that you take any lesson, because whatever you learn from the book, tomorrow can be obsolete. The world changed very fast. And so therefore, that was how I was brought up. So, okay, I know nothing about tourism and sport, but I can start anew. For tourism and sport, I learned that it's not about figures. And that was my mission at that time. Of course, we have the number of tourists. We have the number of revenue that tourism receipt can contribute to the country, which, of course, very important. But when I think that this is the thing that I want to help the country, so to me, tourism is a means to create sustainable growth for our country. Tourism can be the means to reduce the gap from the super rich and the very poor. Tourism means that there is a chance for people to return to their hometown and take pride in what they have. I intentionally wear this one because it's coming from a young lady in Mae Hong Son, in the northern part of Thailand. And with tourism, she returned to her hometown. And now the business, many business people, especially the young generation, they start to realize that actually in their province, so many beautiful things, and tourism can be a part that they can help to bring people in and reduce the gap. When I talk about gap, Thailand in the past, to my perception, political issue in the past is because of the bigger gap between the super rich and the very poor. So if tourism can help to bring down the gap, we believe that we can share and we can create a sustainable growth because it's a sharing economy. So that's what I was thinking. So the past 3 years of my work in the government, that was my mission. Make sure young generation return to their hometown. I think that I am quite successful in that sense. I think that it's the beginning of the second we call Mueang Rong. We start to introduce smaller town, the unknown places, and also everyone think that tourism is a part of their province, that they should take pride and it can create a sustainable growth. But a little thing, one more, is about sports. It's the same thing. I believe that sport is not how many medals you win. Of course, we won many gold medals in Olympics and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think the true meaning of sport is sports for all. So everyone can enjoy sport. And sport is something that book cannot teach. Sport teach you spirit, how to win and how to lose, how to find your new strength and whatnot, how to create friends. Sport and tourism is the same thing. It's only people to people and heart to heart. So that's my experience, that when I made that decision, and I have no regret at all, because I think that I helped the country. And if I can follow from what Helen has already said, that this coming election, I hope that it's not only number of women who can be participating, but the young generation. I hope that young women and all the young generation can help to come in with the thinking that you want to help the country. Not only your province, but your country. And it's worth all the blood, sweat, and tears. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kobkarn. I have just a follow-up question for you, a very quick one. You mentioned public service. This is public service, working for your country, and I think many people would appreciate that. Now, we had an unusual government, we still do. You were appointed to this post. You were appointed to be a cabinet minister for tourism and sports. If you had to go through the electoral system, the electoral arena, would you have done it? And would you do it?
I'm not so sure whether I'm qualified or not, but if meaning the new one probably cannot now, cannot, because I already returned. But at that time, probably, as I have said, that in the olden day, I would say, perception of politics or politicians to some people like me, not so good, or maybe you cannot do this and you cannot do that. But once I have a new perspective that actually this is a chance for you to do something for your country. And it is something that you can be the one, you used to be the one who complained, but once you have to be the one who implement. So that is a great challenge.
Thank you.
I'm not so sure whether
No, I think we have to address this dilemma, the dilemma for Thai politics, and if I may say, the impediment of Thai democracy. One impediment is that there's a notion that the ideal type, the ideal politics, the ideal leaders, they have a sense of noblesse oblige. They don't go through the polls. They come to rule. They're clean. They're good. They're capable. But because the electoral arena is tarnished and dirty, and so this is a kind of dilemma, and that's why I asked, if you were to do public service through the electoral arena, would you do it? So the answer is maybe not. Which goes to your point about access and entry and willingness to step up and maybe even get involved in the rough and tumble. Let me proceed to Dr. Nalinee Taveesin. And Dr. Nalinee is the leader of Pheu Tham party now. You come from New Zealand, to give you a little bit of a flavor, local flavor. So our party system now has become very fragmented. So the Pheu Tham party is like a part of the Pheu Thai conglomerate, if I may say. They have different, it's like a big corporation with the different affiliates. But Dr. Nalinee has been with Pheu Thai before and been with politics for a long time. Also been a minister attached to the PM's office. How do you see, Dr. Nalinee, you have, please, to the points that have been raised and from your own experience?
Thank you very much, Dr. Thitinan. I think the things that have been raised this morning has been very interesting, and I'd like to take up, first of all, from the Right Honourable Helen Clark about the statistics of women participation in politics in Thailand. Going from the present one at the moment, which is this present government, I think the ratio of men to women in parliament is about 95 to 5, which is about 5% of women. And in the most recent UN Women's Report, it says that there are 4.9% of women in parliament, which is in line with that. And that makes Thailand 184th out of 190 countries in terms of women participation. However, in terms of a normal time, giving an average of elections in the normal elections, we usually have between 15% to 18% of women in the parliament. And I mean, that's still very low, and I think we have to improve on that somehow, in terms of the ratio of it coming. Having said that, in 2011, that was the first time that we had the first female prime minister in Thailand, which was my former leader, Yingluck Shinawatra. She was the first female prime minister. And that, having a woman at the leadership there enabled women to be, more involved. One of the major policies that we had was the Women Empowerment Fund. And being the minister attached to the Prime Minister's office, I was the chairperson of the mobilization of the committee for this. So I got to travel around the country, to hear the women out in different groups from the northeast to the north, and I think the program was actually designed in all these areas: central, northeast, north, and all like that, and then the deep south, because it was dangerous, and there were bombs every other day almost at that time. It was a bit dangerous, but I made sure that we went there as one of the places that we went, we traveled to. So I went to Narathiwat, Pattani, and Yala, way down south and all like that. And then the gathering was huge, and you could see that not only were the people generally feeling that they were left out, but women were even worse, in that sense. So when they saw us, they cried. And the first, I remember it stuck in my heart, the first sentence that I heard when one person came and hugged me, and she said, "Why do you come here?" I said, we came here to hear you out. And said, "No, but why did you come here? It's so dangerous." I said, "You can live here, we can come here, we need to know what you need," and all like that. So, it was so touching, and they were so, so involved, and they had so much in them, just wanting to do things and all like that. And at the end of the day, in these communities, women had to work hard to feed their family. And when the money goes to the women, the money gets distributed into the family and the needs of the family. Whereas when it goes to men, it becomes a bit questionable, where it goes and all like that. But anyway, so the Women Empowerment Fund, the objective was, there were two major objectives. One was to empower women by giving them training and supporting them in their small businesses and things like that, and also increasing their ability, just improving everything that they have. And the second thing was to pull out the ability within them to empower them, to pull it out of them, to be, to use their strengths for the community, for society, and all like that. So we saw a lot of involvement in the local level at that time too. So I think having been involved in that area, I just saw how women could be more involved in the local level even. And going back to the general political sense, in the Thai Lak Thai, when the first party that, at the Thai Lak Thai period when Dr. Thaksin was the prime minister, there was a lot of programs to empower women at that time too, to have more women involvement in politics. And then, as it moved along. We saw more involvement at the local levels and so forth. But even so, I think the participation rate is still very low. But it's good to see this time, as we are heading for elections next year, hopefully in February, we have more women in leadership in the parties. Like for Pheu Thai party, the head of the chairperson of the strategic committee is a woman, Kun Hing Sudarat, and the spokesperson for Pheu Thai is also a woman, and also, of course, our party, I'm the leader, and I have another person, another lady, who's also in the ExCom committee of the party. And I think we're seeing more and more, there's our Thai Raksa Chat, which is another party. That's more, the ExCom is younger, generally younger people, but there are also more women in there as well. So I think it's good to hear, to be involved there, that this, as Right Honorable said, that women need to be at the decision-making desk, to hear it out, to be there at the right point. And I think we're moving in the right direction, though we definitely need more involvement of women at every level. Thank you.
Yeah, just 2 points I want to tease out. You mentioned about Pheu Thai now has a female leader, as was Tham. And in fact, women in political parties, on this side at least, there are a fair number. But part of the problem that we have here, I think it's not the same in New Zealand, the whole concept of the politicians here is prejudice. So if you're a politician, it's considered a dirty business. It's not a very desirable, clean and honorable kind of profession. And this has deterred, I think, a lot of women. The other point about local women in local communities is very important. It's very difficult. You mentioned female prime ministers in New Zealand coming from rural areas. I assume that they were involved in local politics before they rose up to national. Not at all. In Thailand, it's very difficult for them to kind of access the political communities locally before rising up. So a lot of barriers.
I wouldn't want to leave you with the impression that politicians are necessarily well respected in New Zealand. Sometimes there's questions about, which occupations do people respect, and the politicians often are ranked down with the second-hand car salesman, which is not very high. But, one of the things I've said all my life to people is, you're ridiculous to have these attitudes about politicians, because in my experience across the political spectrum, most people who come into Parliament in my country are quite well motivated. They want to represent their constituency, they have a certain point of view, and, they are stepping forward to do public service. So I think politicians are always, they're a cheap shot for media in a headline, right? And some politicians make complete fools of themselves, of course. But in general, I feel in my country, people are well motivated. And they don't really deserve the kind of low ranking. I'm just going to Google while we're sitting here to see where they're ranked at the moment. Is it above or below the second-hand car salesman?
There's a binary element in Thailand. So in New Zealand and in most other countries, I think a politician may be low ranking, but here there's been also a deliberate effort to contrast the elected politician with, unelected, in this case, maybe, as opposed to civilian politicians, would be military generals, that they would be the good guys. They would have the leadership, the strength to lead the country. So there's that kind of a deliberate contrast, which may not exist in New Zealand. Let me move to our next speaker from the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, of course, has been around the longest, since 1946, and Kun Chompoonute Nakornthap was a Democrat MP candidate in Nong Khai. I think you also were still running Nong Khai.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, and so the Democrat Party recently has been in opposition, but they were in government. They won the election in September 1992. took office, and then again after the economic crisis in '97, they were in office, and then of course in 2008 to 2011 under Kun Apisit they were in power,
Right.
in office. So Kun Chompoonute, after the points have been raised from the Democrat Party, also you're very active on gender equality issues. Yeah.
Yes.
So please, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Thitinan. Your Honorable Helen Clark, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I am Chompoonute Nakornthap. I'm representing the Democrat Party. I actually am very excited and honored to be here. And there are actually a couple of issues that I had thought about, that I had written on my paper. And I was thinking about talking about that particular topic. But then after what I have seen, after what I have listened to, I thought that this would be a good time to speak from my heart. This would be a good time to speak about the experiences that I had personally in the political arena. I would say that my profile, personally, professionally, and politically are a little bit different. I came from a very political background. My father was the Secretary General to the Samakhi Tham Party. That was way back about roughly 30 years ago. My uncle was a member of parliament as well as the senator. He was in his positions roughly 10 or 20 years under many political parties. My half-brother was the previous Minister of ICT. He was under the Pheu Thai party. He actually is still under the Pheu Thai party. And if Your Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen have been in Thailand long enough, would know that the Pheu Thai party is the opposing party with the Democrats. And my father also belongs to a different party. So my situation politically is I actually grew up in a political family. But when I decided a while back, I went to my dad and I was telling him that, Dad, I want to go into politics. He looked at me and shook his head and was like, why? Why would you want to go into politics? You have seen us all along for 30 years. You knew how hard it is. You knew how hard it was. Why would a woman want to do something so difficult? Why don't you just get married? Why don't you just enjoy life? Why don't you just go shopping? And just have fun, travel around the world. And I was like, no, if I want to travel around the world, I want to do some good. I don't just want to do some shopping. And, after that, I went to my mom. My mom is in Seattle, so actually my education was from the States. I was educated in Seattle. So I called my mom in the States and I was like, Mom, I decided that I want to go into politics. And she's like, no, not again, not your dad, not you too. And she was like, I'm sorry to say this, Thai politics is so dirty. And then again, she went, no, not just Thai politics. It's dirty everywhere when it comes to politics. And then she looked at me, and then she talked to me and she was like, but in Thailand, politics is actually filthy. And I was like, that was a little bit reluctant from the beginning. But then I decided that, hey, once I made up my mind, I just might as well continue with it. So I did. I went into politics. And the first time when I went into politics was that I was running for Member of Parliament in Nong Khai province. And if any of you knew again, that in the northeastern part of Thailand, they do not favor us, the Democrat Party. I could have easily, worked in the political arena field under the Pheu Thai Party, or the previously called Thai Rak Thai Party, because my half-brother was there, But I guess I was a little bit feisty, to say the least. I decided to go for something a little bit more difficult. I like challenge, Personally, I just think what keeps me going is not the easy life, but it's the hard life. It's the challenge. The more difficult things are, the more difficult I push forward, to grab on to what I aim for. So the first one, I failed. Not terribly. My scores, my votes back then was not bad at all. Considering I just, I knew like 2 or 3 months ahead of time before I went into my constituency. And yes, in Nong Khai, if you were to run for the member of parliament, you have to be able to speak the northeastern dialect. I came right fresh from the United States. When I had to speak in Thai way back then, it was difficult for me, It was actually even difficult for me to speak in Thai when I went on stage yesterday to talk about the LGBTIQ community in Thailand. So it was like a very memorable experience. When I said memorable, it wasn't just good, it was bad, it was mixed emotions. It could be the best of your days, one day, and then it could be the worst of your day the next day. Nevertheless, it went by. I did not succeed in terms of, running, but I thought it was one of the greatest experience ever that I had. A little bit afterwards, I went into my business sector, and then I was approached by the then Apisit Vechachiwa government to appoint me as the advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, in which I did during the time, way back then. If I must say so, even way back then, I did not see as many female ambassadors as I do see now. And I am, so thankful to be sharing the stage with all the great female contenders, female panelists, and as well as seeing all these great female, ambassadors and personnel from different parts, of the world. So I see a lot of changes 10 years later. I see a lot of changes way back when I was the advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I actually quit my political arena about 5 or 6 years ago. I thought that no way, that I'm going to make it. I was at the time actually was reluctant because my brother, my half-brother, had also approached me to go to a different party, which would be a lot easier for me to be very successful. And I thought, no, Cherie, that's my middle name, Cherie. And I thought to myself, Cherie, no, you like challenge. You don't want something easy. I wasn't even thinking challenge. I was thinking the impossible. But I chose to stay with the Democrat Party. And I chose to run in this term again as a member of parliament for the same province, which is Nong Khai province, in the northeastern part of Thailand. I know it's not going to be easy. Nothing is ever easy. Being a female politician, I must say, is hard enough as it is, but I am also probably the first of its kind. I'm an openly gay woman in Thai politics. And to come out like that, when my father is a soldier, when my mother is in the States, but she's very conservative, to just come out that I'm a gay politician in Thailand. People would just look at you and go, are you sure? You don't look like one. And I'm like, what does a gay person supposed to look like? What does a gay person supposed to act like? How is a gay person supposed to talk like? And I was like, I have always been proud of my sexuality. I have never hidden it in the past, and I'm not going to hide it. And if God allows, whatever allows, the up above, if there is one, allow me to run into politics in the past. So please allow me to say I'm a gay woman in this country, in a very conservative political party, running in this country. And I'm proud, and I am celebrating my positioning in the political world. And to not make it more than 15 minutes, I'm thankful that I'm here, and to share my experiences with you. So it's still long steps, ahead. There's still many long and winding roads. There are still many ladders to climb. There's still many compliments. There's still many condemnations. There will be acceptances. There will be rejections. There will be denial. But I am here, and I am here to stay. No matter what anyone says, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm fine where I was. I am actually fine where I am. But to make a difference is not to stay where you are, but to make a difference is actually make that step further. So I'm willing to make that step further, even if it means the acceptances might not be there, but I am here to stay. And my name is Chompoonute Nakornthap. Thank you very much.
ขอบคุณมากครับ Thank you very much, Mr. Chompoonute. Look, I have to find a way to move my household registration to Nong Khai so I can vote for you. I neglected to say you have all the bios and backgrounds of our speakers. Most of them are here for the first time speaking, all of them at ICE's public forums. We have regular forums, but these are first-time speakers for our forums. And they're all distinguished. They have illustrious backgrounds. So Kobkarn is a top business lady with the Toshiba group, and Chompoonute, as you can see, from a very political family. I want to come back to you about that in a second. And then Dr. Nalinee, long-established career in Pannika, very up-and-coming young politician. So I don't know what your family reunion would be like when you have family reunion. So the Nakornthap, a very established political name in Thailand, military, politics, business. But you didn't take the easy road. We have now the season of poaching. You probably don't have this in New Zealand. They call it, pardon me, but they call it sucking. And they call it dude. Sucking means you're poaching different established elected politicians from the different parties. And so there's like a market now for politicians. It's almost open bidding. You can just, if you're the government, you have probably the government coffer to use. The others will have different ways. But for you, the easier way for you would have been to join a party that can win the seat. But you didn't do that. And the way that you win a seat, in Thai politics, it's called money politics. Probably not the same in New Zealand. It's a very simple business proposition. You invest some money in your candidacy. You buy some votes. You get elected. You find your way to the corridors of power, maybe cabinet, and then you get some kind of government procurement project for your associates and family and yourself, and then you recoup your investment with some profit, really. So it's really a kind of a money politics, business But
investment.
you didn't do that. You didn't do that. So
No, I
what is
didn't.
your, what drove you to stay with the Democrat Party and not go the easy way with one of the other parties that could send you to parliament?
If I would sound a little bit corny, I would say, it's the principles. Plus, I have a lot of respect for the previous prime minister, ministers, which are Kun Chulalongkorn and Kun Aphisit Vejasiwa. So, I guess I grew up with the notion of having the principles to gain, and to aim high, is not to take the easy road.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to Kun Pannika now. Please, new party, spokeslady for the party. And, this is a brand new party of young bloods. What has been the experience for you guys, for your party, and also for yourself as a female politician now? And are you running in the constituency system or the party list, or not at all? Please.
It is very good that I speak after Kun Chompoonute, because I am always a little bit inconvenient when speaking on women and politics, because for me it is a little bit too narrow to speak on women's rights or women in politics, because for the party and for me personally, when we talk about inclusiveness and diversity within politics, we cannot talk just about women, but it is more about how to make your parliament, our parliament, be very inclusive and reflect the whole society. And the society, you cannot think of it as binary, women and men. But it is more than that. The world is more complicated than that. And we speak more about how we can reflect the whole society within the parliament. We have to have young and LGBTIQ people, women, people with disabilities, and many others, because the society is like that, so the parliament should be like that. Kun Nalinee just said a very shocking statistics that we have 95% male parliamentarians and just 5% of female parliamentarians in this parliament unelected. But what we haven't spoken about is that we have 3 million. We have 3 million LGBT people, estimately, in Thailand. And no openly gay parliamentarians at all. The UN estimated that we need 99 years to reach a well proportion female-male parliamentarians in the world. So I asked how many years we need to make a well proportion, an inclusive parliament within this world and in Thailand. And this is a question. So coming back to women and politics and our party and my experience, I am the youngest in this stage, and I just entered politics for 7 months. So very little experience on politics, but a very interesting one. Prior to entering politics, I was a journalist, so I can compare between being a young female journalist and being a young female politician. I can compare and contrast these two positions, which is very different. When I was young female journalist, I used to think it was a kind of privilege and advantage, because when you are a young female journalist, you can get closer to sources and can gain trust from them easier. And you can develop a kind of informal relationship with sources. And it is easier for us to get information. That is how journalists work. But when it comes to, I would like to say a power, an atmosphere of power within politics. A politician,
a politician's world, to be a young female politician, the first problem is that you will never be taken seriously when you are young female, and believe me, when you are young female attractive politician. You'll be seen as a pretty face, a kind of brand ambassador, just like sitting there with nice outfit, and people will start thinking and questioning, who is your dad or who is your husband that make you sit on those stages? And it is a kind of typical thinking in Thailand, especially in the provinces. So that's how I experience politics, and I can say this is the first time in my life that I experienced crude, direct sexual discrimination. Just one example. How would you feel when you prepared for speech for the whole night and you are determined to deliver a very good speech, and when you deliver it out and you were quite satisfied with it, and people just paid attention and praised your outfit and your earrings on those days, and it happens all the time. People just see young female politician as a pretty face, and no matter how much we try to prove ourselves, it will always be like that. But yes, I'll try to prove that we have capabilities, not just like beauty and connections. And I'll speak more about connections when it comes to female politicians. Another problem when we enter politics as female politicians are some kind of accusations that you can see during the time of Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra, the first female Prime Minister of Thailand, that she had to face accusations that if you were male politician, male Prime Minister, you will never face something like that. To be weak, newspapers counted how many times she cried, and it was nine times, and it was like on the newspaper. So why do you need to know that how many times the Prime Minister cried? It's just nonsense. But journalists counted and show it on the newspaper, and it shows something, some kind of what is in your mind. And she, as well as other female politicians, always faces the accusation of having inappropriate relationship with other male politicians. The accusation of always being the mistress of somebody powerful, some like other people in higher level. And why is that? Why is that? I have some conclusion in my mind. It is just because people believe that female politicians, especially young ones and especially attractive ones, they gain the position by tying connections, private, informal, and inappropriate connections with other male macho politicians. And that is typical thinking, not just in Thailand, but in Asia as well as some other parts of the world. And that's what we as female politicians, and I can say not just female, but non-mainstream politicians have to face. It is always questionable when non-mainstream politicians, parliamentarians, are in that positions, that why are you able to be there? It is with your connections, it is with your money, it is with your charm, or it is with your capability. And we need to prove ourselves much more than macho mainstream politicians on this. Coming a little bit to the statistics, I have some stats. Nalinee already said about the 95% of female parliamentarians in this current parliament. But I have two other statistics which is very interesting in Thailand. We have local administrations in Thailand, right? And 6.74% of head of local administrations are female, just like around 7% of these positions are in the hands of the women. And more interestingly, Thailand's governors, we have 77 provinces, right? 76 unelected and 1 elected in Bangkok. Can you guess how many female governors we have? Can you guess? Not 0. We are better than that. No more than 2. Every year you have to reshuffle the governors, right? And every year we have the first female governor in Thailand in, I don't know the year, 2536. 96? No? No. 1993, yes, 1993. We have the first Thailand's female governors. After that year, no more than two female governors in Thailand. I don't know why, but no more than 2. Maybe just 1 or 2 female governors are allowed to be in a position in Thailand. So it is a very shocking number, but you still can see that if you have elections, there are more chances for women because the head of local administrations have to come from elections, local elections. But the governors is selected by the central government, and just 2.5 are female. Why for the local administrations it is 7%? Still a very bad number, 7%, right? The international standard is about 23 according to the UNDP. But it says something. What I would like to say is that the level of democracy and elections can increase the chance for not just women, but non-mainstream people to enter politics. Why is that? Because when you let elections happen, people are the ones who decide, and they tend to choose the ones that are closer to them, that can represent them. I don't mean that women will choose just women, but they have the right to choose, right? But when you select people, and when you are in Thailand, which is a very conservative country and ruled by old boy networks, just like Thitinan said, it is like 99% chance that they will select people from a very conservative mind. But when you let people elect someone who represent them, I know, but there are definitely more chance that people will choose ordinary people who look like themselves. And that's why democracy is important. And that's why we need more democracy and elections, not just for women's rights, but for the society that is more open for all. And for the new politics, Chompoonute just said that politics is dirty. Yes, it might be dirty, but it can be corrected. And corrected by the ordinary people, corrected by make it more transparent, more well represented, and more friendly for ordinary people, for LGBTIQ, for disability people, for ordinary people, because politics, all in all, it is about us, about everyone, not just politicians. So let's make politics, the politics for the people. That's for our interest, not just women, but for us humans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to follow up on 2 points and ask you a quick question, Kun Pannika. It's interesting you said the distinction when you were a reporter. If I may use the terms sex appeal, work favorably, right? You have access and, but then when, as a politician, sex appeal works against you, as you've been perceived as kind of not getting there by merit, but by the looks. Another point about the governorship, that's very interesting. And, this comes right down to this campus and Thammasat and universities. If you look at university, so the governors of Thailand, provinces, they are mostly from the Ministry of Interior. The Ministry of Interior is run by graduates of Juฬा and Thammasat, but also Kasetsat, but mostly Juฬा, Thammasat. And they have a kind of a clique and mafias and factions and so on. On campus, however, political science students, more female than male. But when they get up to the Ministry of Interior, they're more male than female, which is something along the way, something happened. Quick question for you. You mentioned about, smear campaigns and personal attacks and, character assassination. And does social media make it a lot worse? How much? How worse social media? The role of social media.
I always say that social media is a neutral thing. It can be used for the good sake, for the bad sake. If you look at social media right now, and especially in Kun Yingluck's case, I have to say that social media played a very important role in proliferating fake news and very emotional drama about female prime ministers. But you cannot blame social media. Social media just like other media, it just reflects how the society think, how the society see that issue. So the problem is not with the social media. You can also use social media against fake news, right? Proliferating real news, credible news via social media, that is possible also. So let's just look at social media just like other media. It reflects what is happening and how to fix it. You can use social media also. But in the time of social media and Facebook and Line, and people tend to believe in gossips and news from Line group rather than in the newspaper or TV. I have to confess that you have to be more careful when using social media.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me turn to the floor. The floor is open. Questions, comments. We have about 15, 20 minutes. Please, Ambassador Satu of Finland.
Let me first thank you all so much, the Thitinan, for organizing this, and Prime Minister Clark and all the amazing panelists. It's been so inspiring, and I think that you really you took the momentum. It's the timing was perfect, as you said. Elections coming up next year, but also I think that there is in the Thai society. I think that there has been such an eagerness to talk about these issues, take them up, and we also organized a few weeks ago together with UN Women and Thai Ministries the seminar on encouraging women into politics, with a very inspiring panel of Thai female politicians. And what I think that it's one of the important messages also from that seminar, in addition to the very many of those suggestions for concrete action, was that the underline why it is so important, why it is beneficial for the whole society, why it is beneficial for the political parties and so forth. And of course, as I come up in your statements as well, I mean, for politics, for parliamentarians to make good decisions, to make good policies that reflect the society, the issues in the society, of course you need diversity. You need gender diversity, but also diversity when it comes to minorities, LGBTI communities, and so forth. And there I think we can also be inspired by the many studies that they've been done in the corporate world. In monetary terms, showing that the companies who have both men and women in their boards, in their leading positions, they make better, economic results. And I think that's very inspiring. And of course, when you look at the, worldwide or including here in Thailand, when you look at the amazing talent pool that there is in women, Thai women very strong in the business world, in many organizations and so forth. So, it would be such an unfortunate waste of resources if you don't use this amazing talent pool to the fullest. And I think this was something that was so inspiring today, that you were talking about those, and also in that seminar. But let me ask you one issue that came up in that meeting a lot, which was the issue of quotas. There were, some people felt that quotas are, would be, very useful either in the political parties or in the political system as a whole. And then there were arguments also that you can do it otherwise. But it would be very interesting to hear from the panel. Thank you very much.
Yes, this is also, and thank you, Satu, from your embassies, for sharing with us the summary of the seminar that you had that we are trying to build on today. This is also a broader agenda. One of the 6 suggestions of the UN study, I think, is to allot quotas for women's participation in politics. What do you? Let me just invite anyone.
This is not Thailand, but what I have heard from my experience, we joint venture with Japan. And when I was in office near Mr. Abe, Japan has very, big issue about gender. But I think at that time, maybe 3 years already, he announced that there should be at least 30% of women in every executive level, including in politics. I think Japan has changed their mind. Some people say partly because of the number of population is declining, maybe. But should not be solely because of that. But I think they start to realize the power of the women that they can make a difference. So this is one of the things that maybe I can share, that 30%.
Well, quotas are always controversial, but they do speed up progress. And if you look at the projections of where we are now with women's representation in parliaments, on the current trends, it would take another 99 years to reach parity. So the issue is, do we want to wait 99 years? I don't think so. So I think it's definitely worth considering quotas to speed things up. I can just imagine, the debate that would go on in my own country, and we're close enough, I guess, for it not to be an issue now. But it would have been very helpful 20 years ago to speed things up. Rwanda has the highest proportion of women in legislatures in the world, and it was achieved with a huge push from the quotas. So definitely worth thinking about, and they can be attuned to the particular circumstances of the country. As I said, Papua New Guinea came up with quite a unique solution, never enacted, unfortunately, but others have found other ways of doing it as well.
Is there any drawback to having a quota in place?
Well, I don't see any drawbacks, because I think it forces the issue. It means that the public will see women performing these roles as members of parliament. Yes, you'll get some who say, they're second-class members of parliament because they didn't have to compete against men. But, these things will be said. The key thing is the public will see women doing these jobs, and that normalises it.
So it can become self-evident. Please?
If I may add some comments on that. Actually, with the Democrat Party, we have quota on the management team on the board of directors for our party, and it's around 25 to 30%. So during the previous re-election of the head of the Democrat Party, when they were selecting the board members, we were running short of women who would apply for the post. So we actually had to pause our selection process. to find more women to go into, to, be selected. At the same time that there was the selection of the head of the Democrat Party, I was also in the United States at the time. And at that time, there was a midterm election in the States. And apparently, I have noticed a huge difference of the women who were selected into the houses, whether it was the Senate House or the Congressional House. And I can say that the women who actually run for offices are actually a little bit different here. There are quite a number of nominees. You either belong to a certain political party, you are siblings of someone who can no longer run for the post, or, you are the wife, the spouses. So, but I have noticed that the women runners, contestants, in the States were very highly independent. They don't belong to the certain clans, but they were just doing it on their own. So I respect that.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments? We'll take this as a last round. Please, 2 hands. Okay, go ahead. Please tell us your name and then go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for such a great talk and great panel. My name is Pannika Wanich. I'm a new lecturer over at Kana Aksarasat, Faculty of Arts. And I would like to address one question, perhaps to Pannika in particular. So based on the discourse of inclusivity and inclusiveness, I think the foundation of it is what we term as the norm or conservative thinking. So what would be some of the ways or some means that we could do to change, the discourse or the rhetoric that people usually, perhaps when they see you in politics, oh, how did you get here? Perhaps because of your looks, or why did you enter politics? You're only a woman, why don't you go shopping and things like that? So it's like a conservative and traditional beliefs, that is very much binary in Thai society as a whole. So when we talk about inclusivity, we have to maybe go back to the beliefs and norms, and that is really hard to change. So I was just wondering what would be some means.
Okay, thank you, Kapajan. So norms and maybe perceptions and stereotypes. Yeah. Ajahn Praved, chen krab. Professor, Faculty of Arts as well.
Okay. I think Thailand, Thai people dream of having...
Ajahn, เดี๋ยวบอกชื่อ
Okay.
full name first.
My name is Professor Chanya. I'm advisor of the faculty. I think Thai people dream of having, female leader. Because when Honorable Helen Clark became the administrator of UNDP, the first thing that you said, you were, intolerable to corruption, to fraud. And then UNDP became the top one in transparency. So I think Thai people also dream of, very capable and strong leader, like you. And I share my experience. I also worked in the media before, during the term of Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. And one of my friends, media from the UK, came to me and asked me, they are going to, do some scoop, about women in politics around the world. And then we talk about, Thai female politicians or MPs during that time who should be picked up by the media. And, at the end, the media came up to me and then said this decided not to pick up anyone from Thailand. Because, there are a lot of, infighting between women from this party and that party. And, the leader, the female leader, are criticized, a lot of inability, blah, 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 and that government still have a lot of corruption. So I think lots of people think that maybe this is the one factor, that make people think that we should select the right people, the best candidate instead of gender, whoever they are, male or female. So, and also, another factor is Thai people perceive, Thai politics is dirty, and that deterred very good, talented female, or even male coming to politics. So I think these are the real problem that we have to tackle. So may I ask one question to Honorable Helen Clark that in New Zealand, how do people perceive politics, or how politicians in New Zealand make people feel more comfortable or don't think that they are that dirty, and then open doors for capable people coming in. And Thai people would like to have female, leadership, like, because in New Zealand you have, I think now 3 female prime minister, and the current one is the youngest female leader in the world, just 37 years old. Yes.
Thank you,
so
Chairperson. Thank you. So I'll just come down from the Kun Pannika, and then the Ms. Clark, you can speak last. Changing perceptions. How do we change perceptions and stereotypes? Thai politics seen as a dirty arena. No one wants to enter it. You enter it, you lost cause. And then also, about the women as a perception stereotype, it may be more traditional conservative.
To change the society's perception on women and on politics, like politics is dirty, that is a very, very unhealthy concept for democracy, right? Some may think that it is not political parties' duty to change the perception of the society, but for our party, Future Forward Party, always say that we work in politics, we enter politics, not just to win votes, but to win the ideas. The war of ideas is the most important task for us. Might be a little bit more important than winning the votes, winning the next elections, because you cannot change the society. Our prime goal is to change the society for the better, and to change the society just to win votes. Cannot do that. You can ask for a Thai party, right? You win every single election, but you cannot change anything because you cannot change the perceptions. One of that is that politics is dirty. And the perception that politics is dirty is even more important than typical conservative perceptions on women in politics. Because when you think politics is dirty, it comes with, as a package, with politicians are dirty, and politicians cannot be trusted. Political party cannot be trusted, dirty, corrupted. And when you believe that, democracy cannot happen. Because you cannot have direct democracy in this world. With 69 million people in the country, you cannot have direct democracy. You have to have representative. And that you need politicians and political party. But when you don't trust, you don't have faith in political party and elections and politicians, democracy cannot bloom in this country. So that's why we need to change that. So how do we do that? We as a political party generate into 3 kinds of works for our party. The first one is working as a political party, do political work, put people into parliament, pushing for legislations. But the second job, equally important, is to have a foundation and to work with students, with universities, schools, to change the ideas, conservative ideas of people in the society. And that is a long-term work, of course, we know that. That is why it is more important than just winning the election. You need to work consistently, years, decades, to change the mind and the perception of the people. That is what we are determined to do. And we need cooperations, not just between political parties, but also from, we call it cultural wing, artists, novelists, film directors, actors, we need them to produce a kind of culture, books, films that promote more openness, inclusivity, and democracy. That is how we can change the conservative perception of the society.
Thank you very much. I think that also politics has to be seen. In order to be seen as cleaner, it also has to show that it is cleaner. That is something that we have to also work on. I mean, Kun Nalinee, Dr. Nalinee, would you have last words to say about stereotypes, changing stereotypes, and politics ahead?
Well, I have to say that the stereotype of politicians are dirty is really deeply embedded in the Thai minds, that anybody else who comes becomes clean, they come in any other way, becomes clean, even though what they do may be just the same or worse or whatever. So I think, in fact, to change that perception, I think it has to be from a lot of things. Actually, I think what we see now is that the social media aspect of it will make these steps leapfrog quite a bit because of the attitude building, attitude changing, the perception and stuff like that. I'm hopeful that these will be actually helpful. One of the ways to make it helpful in changing the attitudes towards politicians. I think having involvement from the youth, as we're seeing now, leading up to the elections this round, we're seeing a lot of younger people come in, and also with the new younger electorates coming in. I think those are the things that could perhaps change things, like be it slow or fast or whatever. It depends on how the media is used and all like that. But I'm hopeful that these things will change, because in the past, we have to admit that the politicians, the constituency politicians, they come by father to daughter to whatever, it goes through generations like that. So the constituency is pretty much owned almost by them, and anybody else who comes and runs in that constituency is likely to lose. Like you said in Nong Khai, right? It's hard to break that barrier of the stronghold there. But with these new factors coming in, I'm sure that will affect the change a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Khop Kun Kap, Dr. Nalinee. This is one key issue for us. One big test will be, will politics change next year at all? We haven't had elections since 2011, would you believe it? Over 7 years. And a lot of things have changed over the last 7 years. So I'm wondering if the patronage networks in the countryside will still be exactly the same, or will they be different? Kun Kobkarn Kap, so you serve in the cabinet appointed by Prime Minister Prayut. I mentioned earlier that the Pheu Thai conglomerate, opposition, but there's also a government conglomerate led by the Palang Pracharat Party, which would like to bring this incumbent government back in office after the election. Would you join them? Would you engage in public service if they ask you? Would you join? Would you engage in public service through the electoral system, through elected representation?
Well, first of all, I cannot do. At the moment. I need to return. I have to take care of the family at the moment. I have left them for quite some time. But I just would like to share the view with all the comments and whatnot. Politics have perception, negative perception, but not only politics, even in business sector. Because once I was serving the government, I know that every time when talking about companies, families, and private sector, they also receive negative perception also. All private sectors must be crook people. You only want profit, you care for nothing. So I would say that every place has its own positive and negative things. But I think we have moved up. We have developed to a certain extent. So don't wait for a sunny day. They will not come. A lot of people must have fight a lot until we have what we have today. We have to keep on going. I remember when you said that when you make a speech and no one really listen and comment about your dress. I received that also. And they count how many times I cry, because I cry more than 9 times. And they consider tears as weakness. I passed that. But then again, for me, maybe this is my personal point of view, that it might take time to change perception, but you have to ask yourself that if you do for something for a greater good, then you have strength to fight. So for me, one of the things is you're fighting for the country. You're fighting for something that you believe. So you don't wait for someone to come and, I wait for you, because there will be that opportunity. But when you have the opportunity, show it, even the hard way. You may have to work harder, try harder, but it's worth it. So therefore, perception is something that we are working on, but it's not only in politics. I would say in many other places as well. So don't lose faith. Don't give up. We have come. If people say bad things about Thailand, of course we have so many negative things. But I think we have come up. If I have to choose where to be born again, I would like to born as a Thai. And so therefore, don't give up. I have faith in you, Kun Chompoonute. I have faith in Kun Pannika. I have faith in Kun Nalinee. You have to be the one who show the example. Fight with blood, sweat, and tears. That politics can have we can do it. And that's what I believe. There will be no rosy path. Even in private sector, there will be no rosy path. You cannot wait for that. You cannot wait for that. And so therefore, it's action that counts. This election, whatever you want to say, it's going to be a better one. I am sure. Make sure that we cling to each other, and there is no best government. I don't think there is a dream government. There is no dream companies. There is no dream family. There is no dream country. Every place has its own plus, minus, black or white. But if you believe in the goodness of certain things, do it. If there is a weakness, change it. One by one, we will be in a better place. So I have high hope in this coming election.
Thank you, Khop Kap. And yes, so if you want a good country, you have to make it happen. Just the last, Chompoonute, before we come to Ms. Clark. And you have a lot of, I think you have multi-layered challenges. On the one hand, women politics, on the other hand, gay politician as well.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I believe that in order to achieve something, you have to work hard at it. And I have been in the past, had it the easy ways. So I'm trying to achieve something that is not easy. When it comes to being stereotyped, like I said earlier, when they just said, you're gay, and I'm like, what does a gay person supposed to look like? What does a gay person supposed to look like? It's the same thing as, what is a dirty politician supposed to look like? Does it look like me? Does it look like you over there? Or does it look like you over there? Perception is there to condemn your future acts against or in whatever ways you are doing things. So it's for us to erase that certain images. It's for us to do Ms. Kobkarn said, to do good deeds and to believe, in whatever is up there that can always help us achieve the good deeds. So in order for a politician to erase that dirty politician image, you just have to act clean. You just have to do clean. You just don't take in the money. You don't take in the corruption. You don't get close to that. Prove yourself. Life is about proving yourself. I am proving myself. And, like she said, I'm going to keep doing it. So if I were able to ask all the females, all the male politicians, all the previous politicians, all the present politicians, what would you do against being perceived as a dirty politician? I would just simply say, prove yourself. There's so many ways of proving yourself. And one way is to do good deeds, and one way is to do it for the people, not for yourself.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. The Right Honourable Helen Clark, quick last few words.
Well, what a wonderful panel with so many different experiences, but I think we've pretty much arrived in the same place, that we really want to see more women coming forward. And what struck me listening to the discussion is the way in which the inclusion of women can actually be leveraged for inclusion of others as well. Think back to the history of the Parliament in my own country, which was just largely white men. You go to our Parliament today, it's looking more like New Zealand. There's many, many more women, close to 40%. There are openly gay and lesbian politicians. In fact, in 1999, the world's first openly transgender Member of Parliament was elected in New Zealand. This was, an incredible breakthrough. First openly gay woman was elected in 1975, and her life was quite tough. But, she made it possible. First gay man was elected in 1993. And then if I look at ethnic representation, in the New Zealand Parliament today, many more Māori, Indigenous people, more or less relative to proportion of the population, many more Pacific people, because we have a significant Pacific population, Asian population not yet represented in as great numbers, I would think, as in the population, but we have South Asian MPs, we have East Asian MPs. So in a way, the inclusion has become quite broad, and I hope you will see that here too, that people from all backgrounds feel that they have a place in the decision-making of Thailand. But I think women can be a spearhead for that. I absolutely agree with the last comments about women actually being able to present as people who are there for the public good and being non-corrupt. I mean, internationally, studies suggest that women are less corrupt. Now, some say it's just because they've had less opportunity, but I don't agree with that. I think generally the women come in despite all the problems and challenges because they are very, very well motivated. I just want to say a word on that aspect of politics in New Zealand. How is politics perceived? Well, people might say to you in New Zealand, it's a dirty business, but they don't mean it's corrupt. They're very shocked if anyone ever is seen to take anything. No, by dirty they mean it's rough and tumble, and there's not always nice language, but definitely corruption, absolutely a no-no, and we have a very active media, which of course is like a hungry dog onto anything that looks like it's not quite proper. What do people expect of their politicians in New Zealand? They do expect them to do what they say they would do if they're elected. They like that. They expect them to be accountable, in other words, and they expect them to be approachable. Those are the sort of bottom lines: honest, transparent, accountable, and approachable. So that's the way the political culture's developed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are certainly approachable, and all the rest, and all four categories. As I tell my 16-year-old daughter, you're lucky to be born a millennial. This century could end up being a women's century 21st century. Certainly more role for women than the other preceding centuries. I've learned a lot here. We have had all kinds of forums on the trade war, South China Sea, the Mekong region, Trump, Brexit, Thailand's economic upgrading. This panel I've learned more than the preceding, all the other forums. I want to thank all of our speakers. I want to mention Helen Clark is here, as I mentioned, to kind of open her movie documentary, A Year with Helen. And there is a website, it's available online. It's GaylenePreston.com, G-A-Y-L-E-N-E Preston, P-R-E-S-T-O-N.com. However, if you just Googled, My Year with Helen Clark, I'm sure it will come up. So you really kicked off and led us on the right course here this morning. If I look back, I've been analyzing Thailand, politics, economy, society for many years, 3 decades. If you were to reverse the ratio of men and women in decision-making roles and roles of power and influence, if you just reverse the ratio, I think Thailand would be a lot better country. We would maybe do a better job solving the Southern Malay Muslim insurgency, which has claimed more than 7,000 lives, one of the top 10 internal conflicts in the world. I see only men. I mean, when the generals are involved in peacemaking, we're not going to get very far. Many other areas I can see if there were more women, I think that we probably would not be so stuck over the last decade of polarization, confrontation, conflict. So please join me in thanking all of our speakers for their experience, their expertise, their time, and especially to the Right Honourable Helen Clark, please Kun Chompoonute Nakornthap, Kun Kobkarn Wattanavrangkul, Kun Dr. Nalinee Taveesin, Kun Pannika Wanich, thank you very much.